All right, here we are. Technical Knockout, the Hardcore Casual MMA podcast. I'm your host, Hussein. With me, as always, my co-host, Jordan Patrick James. There he is. We are going to talk about Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas at the Apex, and this upcoming card of Blanchfield versus Fiorot in Atlantic City, baby. Homecoming. We're coming home. Big Jersey. I'm excited. Yeah, man. Before we get into that, let's break down this last card. Jordan, what do you think? Any preliminary thoughts on the card?
I didn't catch a lot of it. I was watching the NCAA Division I National Finals for wrestling, which, side note on that, I feel like the UFC probably could have just went ahead and foregone this weekend, maybe took an off weekend and invested in maybe throwing some fighters into the NCAA tournament, had them kind of like in the crowd so you could have the camera like, oh, look at that, that's Kamaru Usman, or, that's whoever. So I think that would have been a better use of the UFC's time and resources, but they decided to put on a fight night in the basement of Las Vegas.
Yeah,
I was
able,
yeah, dude, I was able to catch a couple of the fights when I got home, just in time to see Edmund Shabazian put out AJ Dotson, which, damn, dude, I thought he had it, dude. I thought AJ started out super positive. Got that quick, couple combinations off. I was like, all right, look at our boy AJ, and then 4 minutes later, on the ground.
Yeah, that was wild. Big comeback there. Did you catch the main event then? You saw what happened over there?
Yeah, it wasn't terribly exciting. Rose looked really good. I liked Ribas. I wish I'd have seen a little bit more action and output from her. I feel like Rose did just enough to kind of win, but that does tend to be more, if she's not knocking bitches out, she's usually doing just enough to win. So it seemed very Namajunas of her. What would you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think Rose may have, I don't want to say she lost a step, but I do feel like she's regressed a little bit over the years. She still seems to have the physical attributes she's always had, where she comes out really hot and has great movement and great footwork and nice jab. And she, like always, gets tired in the fourth and fifth round. But I don't know. She just, maybe it's because she's up the weight class. Her punches just don't have the same snap that they used to, It might just be because she's fighting bigger women now. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, she obviously won. She did a good job. Ribas, before the fight, I was thinking, like, this fight is pretty, 50-50. It could go either way. But then when you see Ribas in there and you see Rose and how both of them move, it was like, oh, this is, like, a very good matchup for Rose. Because Ribas is very aggressive, and she doesn't move her head at all. She'll just be like this, she throws, like, some pretty good hooks. She has a nice back kick that she landed a couple times in this fight. More than anything, she's very tenacious and she has a lot of heart. And so that really just translates to being almost like a Cheeto Vera to Rose Namajunas' Sean O'Malley. It was kind of just like a canvas for Rose to be able to style on her. And she wasn't able to, put the stamp on it so much on that this last Saturday night. But she did win, and she won convincingly, and, you can't ask for much more, especially coming off of the little skid that she was on. I'm sure she's very happy to get one in the bag. Good performance from Rose, I would say. Not great. Not the championship caliber that we're used to seeing from her. And, I kind of feel like she really can't compete with, the top dogs in this division that we're going to be talking about later. And Blanchfield, Fiorot, those kind of, star athletes at 125. I even feel like somebody like Macy Barber would give her a really tough time at this point in her career. That might be a good fight to make, actually. But, or maybe even Kaylin Chukagian or Terminar or whatever her name is now. But yeah, so I mean, I wish we would have saw Rose. I think she could have got the knockout, honestly, if she really pushed for it, but it just seemed like her punches didn't have that much of an effect on it. But Ribas is there to get hit, and Rose was able to land a lot. So pretty decent win there. Not the most exciting fight by any means, though. But it is what it is. And then in the co-main event, it was another fight that was not very exciting. But we didn't do a preview pod, but I was pretty confident. I posted on the TKO Instagram to put Carl Williams by decision He is a really good wrestler. I saw some of his fights, his first couple fights in the UFC, and I think he had one in the Contender Series, if I'm not mistaken, where he's just like ragdolling these dudes, man. Like there was a clip I put up on the Instagram where he's fighting Lucas Bresky, and it's in the second round, and he drops him with like a weird hook in an exchange where it's kind of like a 50-50 exchange, and then he gets him to the fence, and he gets like that like seatbelt position from behind him, and just fucking takes him up like crazy, like throws him like in a rainbow, you know what I mean? 5-point slam. It was insane. So
I feel like Tafa could have got the knockout. There's just a couple key decisions throughout that fight that, it was just, I think there's that one head kick that he slipped when he was starting to really put a little bit of pressure on Carl Williams, and then a couple other where he ended up in the position that, Carl Williams was just gonna, wrestle fuck him to death, and then that kind of zapped his. I feel like if he was able to keep it on the feet a little bit longer, and continue to let those hands go, maybe even, I forget who was on the commentating that said that, maybe be able to throw one of those right check hooks. I think he could have found a lot more success, but
bro,
Williams,
he was hurting him. He was hurting him left and right in the third round, especially. But the thing is with these guys, the Tafas, the Tuivasas, even Mark Hunt to a certain extent, these dudes, they hit so hard, they take a great punch, they cannot defend a takedown. It's incredible. I don't know what it is over there. Like, is it the hips? Is it I don't know. Is it the wrestling program? Something's wrong in the New Zealand Maori Samoan sphere that they're allergic to wrestling. So that's why I was so confident in picking Williams, because I knew that Tafa, falls over if you stare at his legs. You know what I mean? So Williams was able to get him down over and over. It made for a very boring fight, and a fight where if you are somebody like me who bet on Williams by decision, you were very tense in that third round when he's getting rocked around. But watching him get punched around like that in that third round, I was definitely holding my breath. But then I saw him fall, and his hand grazed Tafa's ankle, and I was like, oh, that's it. He's got him. He's gonna take him down now, and he did. It was ridiculous. Like, it was incredible. Anytime he made contact with the lower portion of Tafa's body, Tafa couldn't help but fall down on his ass. And, great performance there from Williams. He definitely not a guy that I'm going to be like, oh, this guy's, it's not like, this isn't like Almeida coming up. Well, he doesn't have that kind of grappling or top game where it's like, oh, this guy can be a real problem to the top of the division. I don't see that with Williams.
I thought for a second he was going to call out Stipe Miocic for a fight, and then he's just like, let's have a barbecue off. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a much safer idea for you.
Yeah, I actually really loved his post-fight interview. I didn't know he was a fireman. That was cool. He was like, that's pretty cool. You're a fireman, I'm a fireman. My boys can cook better than your boys. Let's get a charity cook-off going. I thought that was the type
of call-outs I want to see more often. You know what I mean?
Wholesome. He definitely won me over. I mean, he seems like a good guy. You know what I mean? Just definitely not an exciting style. At least, when he's fighting a power puncher. When he fought that Lucas Bresky guy, that was a great fight for him. It was very exciting. Even though it went to decision, he was, dominating, dude. So, I mean, for Williams, maybe I'd like to see him go for the kill a little bit more. For Tafa, for God's sakes, hit the mats, bro. I don't know what, I mean, there's not much more to say. It seems like they, both the Tafa brothers, their whole career it's just like it's an IQ test when you're fighting them. You know what I mean? Can you can you shoot for a takedown? You will win. That's pretty much it. Can you take a decent punch? Like if you're relatively tough, if you're not one of the chinniest guys in the division, and you can shoot a double leg, you have a great chance of beating either of the Tafa brothers. But yeah, so let's keep going down the card. I don't want to keep shitting on them. You know what I mean? I like the guys. They seem like good dudes, and they are fun to watch. So they're not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? They're going to stay in the UFC, even though if they lose a couple fights, they'll get a knockout over some chump and then stick around. Edmund Shabazian versus AJ Dobson. You talked about it a bit earlier. Great comeback from Edmund. He was getting beat up, dude. I mean, I thought that Edmund was going to win. I had him by points in a bet. I thought he was going to be able to, win early and not put away Dobson, because Dobson is very tough. We've seen him. I don't think he's ever been finished. I think that's the first time he got finished, if I'm not mistaken. At least first time I've seen. And we've seen him take some big shots from some heavy hitters, guys like Stefan Nchukwi, guys like Armin Petrosian, some big hitters in the division. and Shabazian was able to find that chin after, to Dobson's credit, he looked better than I've seen him in a long time in this fight. He was, my biggest gripe with him in the past has been that he's been a little gun shy, and a little, like slow to let his hands go. That was not the case here against Shabazi, and he came out really hot and was rocking him, was doing a really good job. And I was like, damn, this is like the potential of AJ Dobson. You know what I mean? When you see him in these fights, a lot of the times it goes to decision, and you're like, I feel like if he pushed a little bit harder, he could have won that fight. Like the Malkoun fight is a great example of that. The Petrosian fight as well. Like, kind of gets into this like lull or this rhythm where it's kind of like, if he's playing it safe. He was not playing it safe against Shabazian, and he had a lot of success because of that. And then it eventually led to his downfall when Shabazian was able to get up out of the ground position, and I think he landed a big left hook, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember what kind of punch it was, but he dropped him and was able to get the finish there. So good job from Shabazian. Definitely still somebody to look out for in this middleweight division. I think he's on a little bit of a win streak right now, if I'm not mistaken. No, that was his first win since he fought Hernandez. So I mean, the dude's has had a bit of a tough schedule in the UFC, but he's still very young. I think he's only like 26 or 27. So I think he's got a lot of room to grow here, and it's good to see him get back in the winning column.
Speaking of got room to grow, Peyton Talbot, man, he's looking good.
Jesus Christ, man, this was my biggest takeaway from this weekend, man. Peyton Talbot just ran through Cameron Simon, and Simon is somebody who we've been pretty high on before in this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about Peyton for a little bit, since his Contender Series victory. Last year was it? We kind of saw the potential in it, and then he's just been delivering, over and over again with these last two fights. So I'm excited to continue to see this young man, you get a little bit heavier challenges because, so far easy work.
Yeah, I mean, this was his best performance to date, and the commentators were talking about it. We've seen it in his fights before where he kind of has a slow first round. It takes him a little bit to get into the fight. That was not the case this weekend. He got into the fight almost immediately, and just completely disrespected Cameron Simon, which is something that you like to see in a young fighter, is that confidence to just kind of walk through your opponent. And against somebody like Simon, who's a point fighter, who's not really a finisher by much means. He doesn't have a ton of power. If anything, he has a good ground game that he can get submissions with, but he doesn't have a ton of power. So if you're somebody like Talbot, who is a more athletic fighter, more explosive guy, why not just fucking push through that dude that is a little bit less athletic or a little bit less powerful. It's not like he's going to be able to do much to stop you, and that's exactly what happened. He was able to just disrespect him and push him and hit him with some big shots, man, and some really good looks, man. Like, I saw him, he caught a kick and went for a wheel kick at one point. It was so slick. It was fucking awesome. He caught the kick and then just kind of tree-topped him, just pushed it up until Simon fell, and then that's when he landed that knee. Oh, my goodness, that knee was insane. Did you see that knee, Jordan?
No, I didn't.
Holy shit, dude. I thought he killed him. It was insane. Like, so Simon throws a body kick, Talbot catches it and hits him with the treetop, just, pushes up the heel until Simon collapses against the fence. Simon has his back against the fence, and Talbot is just, like, walking up to him like a fucking gangster. And he reads that Simon's going to drop for the hips again, and he just walks in and throws this huge knee, and it sounded like a gunshot. It was insane. There's a video you can find on YouTube of the crowd angle, and in the apex with a minimal crowd, it was like scary, dude. Like, I don't know how Simon took it. Like, he took that. That's not what finished him. You know what I mean? Like, he took that strike. He made it to the end of the round after getting rocked like really bad from that. And then got dropped on like the first exchange in the second round where they both throw left hooks, and Talbot was just a little bit quicker and a much harder hitter. So great performance there from Talbot, and I'm really excited to see how he develops here. The dude is a fucking bright prospect at bantamweight, and bantamweight's one of the best divisions. He's a small guy and he's young, so we might see him move up at some point in his career. But he has a style that seems to be a lot of trouble, so I'm excited to see how he develops. And speaking of people developing, I really underestimated Yusuf Zalal here in this fight against Bill Quarantillo. Quarantillo is somebody I've been a fan of on this podcast for a long time, and he's somebody who he always pushes the pace and pressures, consistently and insistently. Like he'll never stop. And he's fighting Yusuf Zalal this weekend, who coming on short notice. And in the past, I've seen him struggle with powerful pressure fighters. And, maybe Quarantillo's not the most powerful dude, but he is a pressure fighter through and through. So I thought he was going to be able to, just kind of drown Zalal in, wrestling and pace and volume. But on the other hand, Zalal, in the meantime, had went over to boxing and Muay Thai and did a bunch of stuff since he left the UFC and came back. And has, in the MMA sphere, is on a 3-fight finishing streak coming into this fight, and he just ran through Billy Q, man. It was crazy. The dude just did not stop. Landed good punches, landed good kicks on the feet. When it landed a good knee as well at one point, I remember. Couple crazy elbows, and then he hit him with that. He got him with the Zabit trip. You remember that trip that Zabit used to do, where he would just like walk up to a guy, and it was kind of like a "Get down, Mr. President" kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he like puts his leg behind him and just hits him with like the rock bottom. He got Billy Q with that. He tried to get him with it in the first round, like early in the first round, and Billy was smart to it and didn't get the takedown. And it was kind of like you look like an idiot when it doesn't work. But then whenever it worked, it was like, holy shit, that was cool. Like it was like a fucking Keanu Reeves Mission Impossible move. Like, and he got him with it. And towards the end of the first round, was able to land some good ground and pound in the top position afterwards. And then the second round, when he did it, it ended up leading to the finish. So very effective use of that technique, and really pleasant to watch. And Zalal seems like a new man, dude. I mean, he's young. When he left the UFC, I think he was only like 23. Now he's 27. He had a tough run when he was in the UFC. He fought Ilia Topuria, who's the champion now. He fought Sung-Woo Choi, who is a tough fighter. And then he fought Sean Woodson in a fight that was super close, and had a draw with Damon Blackshear. None of these guys are dog shit. You know what I mean? Like, those are all good fighters. Maybe some not as recognizable names as others, but still tough fighters. If you're a fan in the know, you know that those fighters are not easy outs. So Zalal has now had some time to improve outside of the UFC. And honestly, that's what I love to see. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool when you see a fighter, just come in the UFC when they're 22 or 23 and just smoke everybody and get to the top, like Ilia Topuria or like Max Holloway to a certain extent, or one of those guys like Holloway who takes a couple losses early and then grows up in the UFC, like a Charles Oliveira, and eventually reaches gold. That's cool when you see that. But there's something that's really also very inspiring about when somebody comes in the UFC young, doesn't do so well initially, leaves, builds himself up, and then comes back and does awesome. Obviously we've seen it with guys like Robbie Lawler, RDA to a certain extent, Dan Henderson to a certain extent. A lot of guys, been in the UFC and didn't do so well, and then left and then came back and did much better, And it seems like Zalal might be heading down that course if he keeps down this path, man. And I mean, Billy Q is a great win to get your name back in the featherweight mix, coming on short notice, and a finish over him is nothing to sniff at. So I'm very happy for Yusuf Zalal, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here. And I think he's going to be a problem for a lot of people in this division if he's fighting how he's fighting here, where he's smart and aggressive. In the past, he's been a little bit too passive. So good stuff there. Fernando Padilla got a submission over Luis Paolo. That guy sucks. If he has another fight in the UFC, I'm definitely fading him. Trey Ogden held down Kurt Holloway. Julian Erosa versus Ricardo Ramos was insane for as long as it lasted. Ramos was rocking Erosa around the ring, like how Erosa gets rocked typically in the beginning of the fights. And then for some reason, he decided, I'm beating him up on the feet so bad. I feel like one more punch, I'd knock him out. Maybe I should take him down. Maybe I should take down this, black belt. And he takes him down, and Erosa jumps the guillotine in a very slick way. Typically we chastise people when they jump the guillotine on this podcast, but
Just Poirier.
Yeah, I mean, Poirier, Brundage, we've seen it time and time again, but Erosa did it very effectively. He went for the guillotine, and when Ramos tried to pull his head out, he adjusted and switched to a body triangle on his back, so he was able to secure him. He wasn't able to pop out like that. And adjusted the hands until he was able to find that neck and got the finish, man. It was fucking awesome. It was a great comeback from Erosa, and that dude's a monster, man. You really can't count him out. You open the door. All right. So yeah, I mean, not much more to talk about on this card.
Except for I want to talk about Lima getting bit.
Oh yeah, the bite. Yeah, the bite was
Fucking
ridiculous.
never have I seen that shit. Mike Tyson type shit going in there, buddy.
Yeah, I
What?
mean, the difference between that and Tyson was, Tyson was, he was getting headbutted from Evander Holyfield the whole fight. Tyson's a family, or not family name, a household name. You know what I mean? Everybody knows him. This guy's making his fucking debut, and in a fight that was really good. It was a good fight before the bite, and then he gets in a position where he's going for a takedown, and I don't know what the fuck went through his mind that he was like, yeah, I should bite this guy. Like, I don't know what maybe he thought he'd get away with it, or I don't know, but it was bad, dude.
It was bad. Like, he's got a mouthpiece and everything, and he still was able to get two sets of teeth marks on it. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was insane. And I mean, like, they
give him bite of the night. You know what I mean?
They gave him bite of the night. They fucking they gave the dude $50,000 for getting bit. It was fucking ridiculous because he got a tattoo. I don't know if you saw the tattoo he got.
No.
He got a tattoo with a bite mark, and it said "Give him bite of the night" or something like something like that. Fuck fight of the night. I got bite of the night. Something like that. I don't know. It was funny as hell. But I mean, it's a bad look for sure. Like, they cut him from the UFC immediately. Yeah, like that's fair. You know what I mean? I get it. Like, it sucks because he looked like a good fighter, but you can't be biting people. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, there was a couple other things that happened on this card. Miles Johns beat Cody Gibson just by being way more athletic, stronger fighter, stronger wrestler. Daria Zelenskova, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce her. That was a fucking robbery. Montserrat Rendon took her down and beat her up, and Daria landed pitter-patter jabs and spun like a blade every chance she got. Didn't land shit. Got the decision. Baloney. And then Mick Parkin beat Muhammad Usman by simply having a jab and being able to throw leg kicks. So, pretty solid night of fights altogether. That Jarno Aaron's versus Steve Wynn fight was fucking insane. If you guys didn't see that one, definitely check that one out. Check out the Ricardo Ramos and Julian Erosa fight. Check out the Fernando Padilla finish. There's some good shit on this card, but it starts to fizzle out when you got to those top two fights, unfortunately.
It is.
That's how it goes down in the basement. But we're not in the basement any longer. Mom let us out. We're able to, we were eating chips, Doritos, and Mountain Dew down in the basement in Vegas, and now we're stepping up and hitting the slots, baby. We're going to Atlantic City, and who better to ring in Atlantic City in 2024 for the UFC than Montclair's own Aaron Blanchfield, getting a chance here to fight Manon Fiorot in what is for sure a number one contenders fight. Blanchfield honestly has already earned the shot with her victory over Tyler Santos. She should be fighting for the belt right now. She's kind of in a Corey Sandhagen / Pantoja position where, Pantoja when Figueiredo and Moreno were fighting, and Sandhagen when Jan and Aljo were doing their thing, where it's kind of like, everybody knows that this dude or this fighter is, deserves that shot. But right now the champ is tied up with some bullshit. So Grasso and Shevchenko are doing the Ultimate Fighter, and they are presumably going to fight in the Sphere in September. And that means that the winner of this fight will probably have to sit on the shelf or fight somebody else again, insane, before they get a title fight. But yeah, regardless of the politics around the fight and around the card, let's break down the fights because there are some really interesting matchups on this card. And I'm excited to have a crowd. I'm going to be there, so I'm excited to be in the crowd and to be, to have a fight card where there's actually going to be fans and not just, coaches and family. So let's start with the top of the card. Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot, women's 125. What do you think, Jordan? Who do you got?
We're riding with Aaron Blanchfield. She should have had this title shot, 6 months ago. So I hate that she's having to put that number one contendership on the line against a very game Manon Fiorot, because that she is a dangerous individual in there, but I just don't see Erin losing this. I think she's just, I think she really is head and shoulders above the division. I think that she's going to be a problem for either Grasso or Shevchenko, whoever comes away. She just is the uncrowned queen at this point. So I could be wrong. We could be on the other side of this, next week being like, damn, Maron Fiorot got it done. But, I just think Erin Blanchfield has all the tools to be like a legacy champion. You know what I mean? Not just one that holds it for like a title fight or two. I think that we're on the cusp of her great reign, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is how I felt with Taporia when he was fighting Josh Emmett, where it's like, this guy already should be fighting for the title. Like, he's a fucking beast. Like, we see that the skills are there, but he has to beat a tough matchup. In Emmett for Taporia and in Fiorot for Blanchfield. This is not an easy fight for Blanchfield. I like Blanchfield against a lot of the division. I think, like I agree with what you said. I think she can be a champion for a long time. But this is the fight where I would be afraid for her, because Fiorot is so long and, such a powerful striker. And she's shown pretty solid takedown defense. Granted, she hasn't fought somebody with the wrestling of Blanchfield. There's not many women or fighters, period, who have her kind of wrestling and tenacious grappling. So Fiorot doesn't have that kind of experience against somebody like that. But when we've seen her fight somebody who did try to take her down in Chukagian and Maya and Namajunas, they were not able to do that, and she was able to keep them on the end of her strikes, able to land her sidekick to the body. She's very much a Holly Holm prototype. Or maybe not prototype is the wrong word because it's like a Holly Holm 2.0, where, she's just a smaller, more compact version. She's a weight class down, but she has a similar build, very long, throws sidekicks, throws, straight punches, makes a lot of noise when she punches too. Both of them do that, shit. And, honestly, Blanchfield is kind of a Misha Tate 2.0, both of them were super tenacious, very gritty, tough wrestlers, and never out of the fight. Not great strikers, maybe serviceman-like at best, striking-wise. But, just have that heart and that will and that wrestling that you can't count them out of any matchup, And I do think we're going to see a fight very similar to Misha Tate versus Holly Holm this upcoming Saturday. I think Manon Fiorot is going to have a lot of success against Erin Blanchfield on the feet. I think she's going to be able to, pop her with some jabs. I think she's going to hit her in the stomach with the sidekick and push her back. But ultimately, I think Blanchfield is going to drown her. I think Blanchfield's going to be able to get a takedown and at some point in one of the rounds, and is going to dominate her on the ground like she's never been dominated before on the ground, and possibly get a finish in that round, if not win a 10-8, and then at some point later in the fight get another takedown and either get a finish or get, another 10-8 or something and win a decision that way. I do think that Blanchfield's going to win. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think this fight goes, if not the distance, goes to the third or fourth round at least, because both women are super tough and seem to be like the heirs to the throne, so to speak. Kind of getting vibes. I mean, obviously they're at a different. They are recognized as the 1 and 2 contenders in the division right now. Excuse me, but this fight feels like a lot like what's it called? Makacha versus Sarukian, or maybe a better example would be Aljamain versus Corey Sandhagen. Where you have these two fighters who are clearing out the division, and you think that both of them have a great chance of being the champion. Right now, the belt is in some kind of limbo. In this case, in the form of Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso getting a draw in their last fight, and in case of Sandhagen and Aljo, Peter Yan fighting Jose Aldo for the belt for some god awful reason. Jose Aldo coming off of a loss to Mala Moraes got a title shot instead of the guys who are on 6 and 7 fight win streaks in Sandhagen and Aljo, but that's a story for another day. Blanchfield and Fiorot are getting cracking, and I'm really excited to see it. And I think
could you imagine if they end in a fucking draw?
That would suck. I mean, it could happen, bro. It really could. If Blanchfield wins the round, barely, Manon Fiorot wins 3 rounds, and then Blanchfield has a huge round 5 where she beats her up on the ground and almost finishes the fight. That's a draw right there. You know what I mean? I might throw some money on it, honestly. I could see that happening. Yeah. But we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to find out. You know what I mean? Let's go down the card. There's a couple other really good fights here. Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. I'm terrified for this fight.
Yeah, that's a
What do
hard
you
one to
think?
bet on. It's a hard one to bet on just because Walking Buckley is so, I hate saying inconsistent, but it's just, what the fuck you gonna get with Walking Buckley? You might get a walk-off KO that like is a highlight reel, or you might get one that is like, what the fuck are we doing here, dude?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Buckley in the past has had trouble with very dominant wrestlers and also very tough strikers. Guys like Kevin Holland gave him a lot of fits. Guys like who's the other guy that he got wrestled to death against somebody? I can't remember who. Was it Duraev? Oh, Imavov. Imavov was able to do some bad things to him. Logan Storley back in the day. Curtis knocked him out. These are, either tough strikers or guys that can wrestle really well. Vicente Luque has those descriptions. He is a tough striker. He, in his heyday, takes a great punch and hits very hard. And, he showed in his last fight against RDA that he can wrestle on the offense if he wants to. Granted, it was against an ancient RDA who's always had problems with wrestlers, but, it was still a victory there, and he showed some wrinkles in his game that he hasn't shown before. But I do think that Buckley is going to win. He's the more athletic fighter. He's the younger fighter. The mileage on Luque is astounding. And, this is a guy who was supposed to retire not too long ago because he had a brain bleed. And Walking Buckley hits really hard, dude. So I don't like that for Luque. And I do think that Buckley's going to be able to find that knockout shot or at least be fast and explosive enough to pop him and not be there when Luque tries to return. Technique-wise, Luque is a much cleaner fighter. You know, Personality-wise, I love him. I think he's a much, more decent bloke than Walking Buckley. Walking Buckley kind of seems like an arrogant asshole a little bit. I've heard bad stories about him in the gym. But, I do think he has the tools to beat Luque this weekend at this point in their careers. 3 years ago, I would have picked Luque without a doubt. But at this point, I think Buckley, he seems to be improving a lot. In that Morono fight, he showed a lot of great tools, and I think he's going to be able to get it done here. And he's in an underdog spot, which I think is insane. What do you think, Jordan?
I think I'm going to stay out of this one. I'm probably just going to watch it, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Fair enough. There's a lot of squash matches on this card. We're going to talk about a couple right now. We got Chris Weidman. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man, He's fighting Bruno Silva, who not too long ago, I think, slept Gerald Meerschaert, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, man, that was a long time ago. Oh, never mind. That never happened. He got submitted by Gerald Meerschaert in the third round. He knocked out Brad Tavares. That's what it was. But, Bruno Silva has had a very middling career in the UFC. He lost to great fighters in Alex Pereira and Meerschaert, Brendan Allen, Shara Bullet in his last fight he lost to. He was kind of just like a punching bag in that fight. He was kind of forced to wrestle because Shara Bullet is very explosive on the feet. That will not be the case this weekend. The thing is that Bruno Silva knows how to punch, and Chris Weidman is not great at taking punches now. So it's going to be bad. Yeah.
We love you, Chris Weidman.
Yeah. Please stop. We don't want to see it again. You know what I mean? We already learned this lesson with BJ Penn and Tony Ferguson. You're not going to recapture the magic. But,
he's a contender. Hey, he's a contender. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he said that. It's crazy. But I'll tell you what, man. If I was getting paid what he's getting paid every fight, I would go out there and get my ass whooped too. You know what I mean? Dude now is making like $350,000 a fight. So, I don't blame him for cashing in those last couple checks.
But at what cost?
At the cost of a lot, brain cells, body health, and injuries, But Bruno Silva is going to finish him. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be early or it's going to be a submission or it's going to be a knockout, but it's going to happen at some point. So I like Silva by finish in this fight. They have him at minus 300 on the odds outright, so he's probably going to get finished. And then you got Nursultan Ruziboev versus Cedric Dumas. Cedric Dumas sucks. He is somebody who was able to beat Cody Brundage, and that's why he's still in the UFC. He would have got cut otherwise. He did look a lot improved in that fight. I'm going to give him credit. The guy, he kind of has an all-around game, but he's not spectacular anywhere. On the other side, Nursultan Ruzabayev. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. It's tough. I'm just gonna call him Ruzi because that sounds cool. Ruzi is also great everywhere, but he's also good everywhere. He's well rounded, but he's really good at wrestling, and he's really good with his power. And those are things that are going to separate him from Cedric Dumas in this fight. I expect Dumas to be very frustrated in this matchup, and I think Ruzi is going to have his way with him, whatever he wants to do, which will likely be the grappling because Dumas is a little bit more dangerous on the feet than he is on the ground. So I expect Ruzabayev to have his way and get the victory here, probably by a finish, probably by submission around second. I don't know. We'll see. Any thoughts on those last two fights, Jordan?
Not really.
We got another one here. Bill Algeo versus Kyle Nelson. I am so tired of betting against Kyle Nelson and losing. And I'm just going to stay away from this one because I want Bill Algeo to win. I like Bill Algeo. I don't like Kyle Nelson.
I think Bill Algeo can win. I think this would be the time to bet against Kyle Nelson, and you get that victory.
I've learned my lesson, you know.
No, you haven't. You never learn your lesson, Who's?
I said that, I said Duho Choi should beat Kyle Nelson. And then what happened? It was like a draw. And then I was like, that guy, we were just talking about him. What the fuck is his name? Fernando Padilla. He should beat Kyle Nelson. And Kyle Nelson just beat the shit out of him. So Kyle Nelson's getting better as much as it's so weird to see at this point. You can't deny the work ethic from the guy. Bill Algeo should win this fight. I don't know what's going to happen, though. I'm going to stay away from it.
It'd be the fight. Come on, it's gonna be the first time that you bet. Stay out of it, and then all of a sudden,
and then he's gonna lose. Yeah.
Come on, do it.
I don't know. Man.
Do it.
I don't know. Do it. Do the roar. Next fight is Chidi Njokuani coming back from that knockout loss to Michal Oleksiejczuk.
Shit, I forgot he did get knocked out, didn't he?
Yeah, that fight was fucking awesome, dude. That's one of my favorite fights last year. One of my favorite fights of all time, honestly. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Chidi Njokuani versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Njokuani's on a bit of a skid right now. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Gregor Rodriguez. He lost to Albert Duraev in a fight that I thought he won personally. And then now, most recently, lost to Oleksiejczuk in that war. And they're giving him a bit of an easy matchup here against Rhys McKee. Rhys McKee, former Cage Warriors champion, came in the UFC on short notice years ago when he fought Khamzat Chimaev and got smoked. Like how people do against Khamzat Chimaev. But he's a pretty good striker. He's pretty good all around, but his striking is definitely his game. Much more of a volume fighter than a power puncher. And he's going to have his hands full with Chidi Njokuani, who hits really hard. That being said, Njokuani does seem to have a limited gas tank. He does seem to be, a little bit inexperienced on the ground. Rhys McKee has had a lot of MMA fights. He has a good gas tank. He's a tough motherfucker. He stayed in there against Chimaev for a pretty long time, getting beat up. And since then has done some pretty good work. So I think Rhys McKee is a live underdog, but I do think Chidi Njokuani is just the more athletic and explosive fighter. And if he doesn't gas out tremendously, I think he should be able to get the victory here. If not by a knockout, by a decision where he wins the first 2 rounds pretty handedly. But I probably won't put a bet on it. We'll see.
Yeah, because I want to see Cheetah get the win, but that knockout loss kind of has me a little wary.
Yeah, I mean it's been a decent amount of time. I think it was like in August, I think. So, it's been like at least
but he's
6
30.
months.
Yeah, but he's 35.
Yeah, facts. But the guy he's fought Glory for a long time.
The last time I bet on a person 35 years old that had just come off a knockout loss, I got my heart broken. Okay.
Good point. Well said. Yeah. We don't have to talk about it any longer. Don't bring it up.
I still deny that it actually happened.
So
yeah, I know you did.
Yeah. But yeah. So all right, let's keep going down the card because there are some pretty good fights here on the prelims. You got Nate Landwehr versus Jamal Emmers. This is an interesting matchup. Jamal Emmers hits really hard, comes out the gate hot. Nate Landwehr, not a great starter, but a great finisher. The dude turns up as the fight goes on and is super tough. Stays in there the whole time. Emmers has been kind of inconsistent in his career. Has gone 1-1, back forth for the last couple of years. Losing to good guys in Jack Jenkins, Sabatini, and Chikadze. And that Jenkins fight, I thought he won for sure. It was a robbery in my opinion. So Emmers is doing pretty good so far in the UFC. Landwehr, on the other hand, also a dog. This is a tough one for me to call. I do think Emmers has more tools than him, and if he fights a smart fight, should be able to just beat him up for 3 rounds. So I'm going to side with the cleaner technique on Edwards or on Emmers' side. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nate Landwehr pulls a rabbit out of the hat in this one and gets a late finish on a tiring Jamal Emmers. We'll see, though. Then you got Verna Jandiroba versus Lupi Godinez. This is a very interesting fight at strawweight. You got any opinions on this one, Jordan?
I do love Lupi Godinez. I do like to side with her, but I don't know much about Jabroni.
Jabroni.
Fucking, it looks like Jabroni. You tell me, look at her name and tell me that it doesn't like Jabroni.
It's pretty much Jabroni. All the letters are there. Sir, look at her face. You'll remember her. She's the one that looks like Rob. Fuck, what's that guy's name? Rob Steiner? No, Rob. Oh shit, the hot chick. You can do it. You know, the guy from
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. She looks like Rob Schneider.
She does look Rob Schneider-esque.
It's the resemblance is uncanny.
Maybe Rob Schneider is a women's strawweight fighter now. Who knows?
You never know. Great. I'm just saying we haven't seen them in the same room together. You know?
He's got range.
Yeah,
he's got range.
Yeah, he's got range. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw him play a woman in the hot chick. You know, it's not too far off. But yeah, Verna Jandiroba has been in the UFC for a while. She's fought who's who at strawweight. She's fought Mackenzie Dern. She's fought Amanda Hebus, Marina Rodriguez.
I do know this chick, yeah.
Yeah, she's fought a lot of people. She's been here for a minute. She's a very tough fighter, tenacious grappler, on the feet. Not incredible, but pretty serviceman-like. I'd equate her game pretty similar to like a Gilbert Burns almost, where not so much in the striking, but in the grappling and the tenacity and the grappling and the chin. She definitely reminds me of Dorino. That being said, she does not have nearly as much power on the feet as Dorino does, and that's going to be a problem where she's fighting Lupi Godinez. I feel like Godinez is the same kind of prototype where she's a tenacious grappler and stays in people's faces, but she can also fight that outside boxing game that we saw her fight against who the fuck was it? I want to say Jocelyn Edwards or somebody. Emily Ducati. Yeah, she kind of just stayed on the outside and punched her in the face and did pretty good in that fight. And I think she'll do the same against Jandiroba. I think she'll be able to keep the fight on the feet. If it does go to the ground, I think she can definitely hold her own. Godinez, her family is all like Mexican wrestling champions. It's crazy actually. Like her lineage is wild. So she's grown up in that sphere, and she knows how to fight that game. So I think if the fight goes to the ground, you're going to see some really cool scrambles in this matchup, but I do expect it to stay on the feet for the most part. I think Jandiroba might be pushing for takedowns, if anything, and Godinez will be stuffing them and landing her jab, landing her leg kick, staying on the outside, and just fighting a clean fight and winning a decision. That's how I see it going down. Julio Arce versus Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns fighting out his contract here. The dude is Gilbert Burns' little brother and has tremendous cardio problems. We've seen him gas out after one round of pulling guard. And he's fighting Julio Arce, who is a really tough fighter, very good everywhere, very well-rounded, hits hard, sharp knees, sharp elbows, and he's gonna fuck up Herbert Burns. It's gonna be bad. So I got Julio Arce relatively easily here, probably by a knockout or a finish in some sort in the second or third round when Herbert Burns inevitably gasses out. If Burns does get the victory here, I'll be very surprised. The odds have him at like plus 400 or something. So, if you guys believe in Burns, throw a tenner on him. Why not, Next, very important fight here. Connor Matthews, friend of the pod. He came on the podcast. He was our first UFC fighter interview. And he is fighting this weekend, making his UFC debut against Dennis Bazooka. The Bazooka, I think that's his name.
Bazooka Shark.
Yeah, that guy. This is a good matchup for Matthews. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I like him, and we talked to him, and he's a great guy. So we're rooting for him. We want him to win, but I think he's gonna win. I think this is a good matchup for him. It's a good matchup to debut against. Dennis Bazooka just got knocked out by Jamal Emmers not long ago. When was that? Like
November 11th.
Yeah. So that was in November. That's like 4 months ago. You know what I mean? And that was a pretty bad knockout. He wasn't like, sprawled out KO cold, but he got dropped pretty hard early in that fight. And, Matthews is very well-rounded. And, we know him for his submission game. He has a lot of submissions on his record. Most of his fights He's won by submission. But his last 2 fights on the Contender Series, his striking has improved a lot, and I think he's going to present a lot of problems for Dennis in this matchup. And honestly, I think he's going to get the finish. I'm riding with my boy here, and I think he's going to get it done. I like him in the underdog spot at plus 104. I'm excited to see what the odds look like by finish, as I'll probably throw a little bit on that. But yeah, we're going to go with the controller here. What do you think, Jordan?
You know we're riding with our boy.
Yeah, that's our guy, and he's going to get it done, man. So let's go, Connor. Get that W, and we'll get you. Either way, I want to get you back on the pod because you're a fucking sweet dude, and a freaking awesome fighter. So, win or lose, we'll like to get you back on the pod, but it's going to be a lot sweeter after that victory, man. So let's get it done. All right, and then we got Ibo Aslan versus Anton Turkalj. They're rolling out Anton Turkalj to die to another guy that they think is going to be good, and Ibo Aslan. It's pretty simple. Bet against Turkalj. He sucks. Victoria Dudikova versus Melissa Gatto is a pretty interesting women's flyweight fight. That kind of fell under the radar for me. I didn't see that fight on the card. So that's a pretty good fight there. I'm not sure who's going to win. I kind of am leaning towards Gatto, but you never know. She's kind of inconsistent. And then you got Andre Petrosky versus Jacob Malkoun. This is an awesome matchup. I'm really excited for this fight at middleweight. Petrosky hits very hard and has a wicked guillotine. Malkoun is a dogged fighter, dogged wrestler. The guy is all heart and will push you to the fence with his jab and double leg you there, or rather single leg is really his route. He likes to go for the single leg and trip. And he's a pretty big favorite in this fight, but honestly, Petrosky is a tough fighter, man. He's a tough fight for Malkoun. He's a great anti-grappler. Gerald Meerschaert found out the hard way. But the thing that Malkoun certainly has on his side in this matchup is the cardio. Petrosky has shown some real problems with the cardio in the past, and in his last fight got smoked by Michel Pereira in the first round. That's probably not going to be a problem in this fight because Malkoun's not really a power threat, but I think Malkoun might be able to drown him in the later rounds with that wrestling. What do you think, Jordan?
I don't know.
All right, fair enough. All right, I think we're pretty much ready to wrap things up here. Let's go down the betting slip if you got one. Jordan, what are you thinking for this fight card? If you
let me check. Let me see. I got Aaron Blanchfield. I don't know about the method victory. I'm probably going to go money line with her. I'm going to fade Walking Buckley. Definitely going to fade Chris Weidman. I'm going to put some money on Bill Algeo to get it done. Staying away from the Chidi Njokuani fight, and then probably going to drop a little bit on our boy Connor Matthews. Probably play around with the method of victories, but I'll probably wrap it up in a round robin. I
like it. Pretty good stuff. I too am going to go for Blanchfield money line. I don't know if she'll do it by decision or submission, but I think it's going to be one of those two. I'm going to go with Buckley by knockout. I'm not excited about it, but I think it's going to happen. Obviously, I'm going with Bruno Silva by finish. I'm going to go with Bruzabayev as well. I'm staying away from the Algeo fight, staying away from the Chidi fight. I'll probably take Jamal Emmers by decision. I think there might be good odds on that. I'll take Loopy by decision, and then I'm going to take Matthews money line to wrap it up. So altogether, I'm going Matthews, I'm going Godinez, I'm going Emmers, Silva, Bruzabayev, Buckley, and Blanchfield. And, we'll see how it goes, man. I'm very excited for this weekend. I'm going to be there. They're coming to Jersey, so I got to pull up. We're going to be out there. We're going to be handing out business cards, growing the name, growing the biz, and hopefully we can get a little on-the-fly time with Matthews after his victory. Let's go, baby. Very excited. And next week, we're going to be talking about Allen versus Curtis, and the week after that is UFC 300, so you motherfuckers better stay tuned. We got a lot of good shit coming down the pipeline for you, all right? Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Peace out. Bye.